Have you ever wondered why you can walk into a room full of people, and without saying a word, some eyes find you immediately? You're not the loudest. You're not demanding attention. And yet, something about you pulls them in. They lean closer. They open up. They tell you their secrets within minutes. And while they walk away feeling lighter, you walk away feeling heavier, more drained, almost as if something unseen has been taken from you. This is not just sensitivity. This is not just coincidence. This is the secret cost of being an empath. And unless you wake up to what is really happening, you may live your whole life carrying a weight that was never yours to carry. Carl Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." But he also warned us that the unconscious carries shadows, and shadows are drawn to light. If you are the light, you will always attract those who cannot create their own. Some of them will love you for it. Some of them will use you for it. And the hardest truth for empaths to accept is that not everyone who comes close to you is here to love you. Some are here to feed on you. Imagine this. You're talking with a friend. They unload all of their problems, all of their anger, all of their fear. And you listen because you care. You listen because it feels wrong not to. You listen because something inside of you believes that maybe if you give them your light, they will find their own. But as the conversation ends, you feel smaller. You feel restless. You feel almost guilty for not doing more. And the strange thing is, they leave feeling lighter, almost relieved, while you carry the heaviness they no longer want. That is not just empathy. That is energy transfer. That is feeding. And here is the warning: if you do not see it, it will never stop. Because people who live in shadows are drawn to light, the way moths are drawn to flame. They do not come because they admire you. They come because without you, they cannot feel what they crave. They come because in your presence, they feel alive. But when you are gone, they return to emptiness. And so they come again and again, until the flame inside of you burns lower and lower. Jung believed that what we do not make conscious will rule our lives. For empaths, this is the danger. If you do not make conscious the truth of how others are feeding on your energy, you will call it kindness. You will call it compassion. You will even call it love. But it will not be love. It will be slow self-destruction. And when you finally realize it, you may already feel too empty to know who you are without it. So before you give more of yourself away, before you silence the voice inside that whispers, "Enough," you must hear this. This is your final warning. Not everyone who comes to you deserves your light. Not everyone who cries to you is seeking healing. Not everyone who says they need you is here to grow. Some are here because you are easy to take from, and if you do not protect your light, you will lose it to those who were never meant to carry it. Imagine walking into a room where the air feels heavy, where the moment you smile, someone else's eyes brighten, but yours start to dim. You do not say a word, yet you feel yourself giving away something unseen. You leave that place more tired, more restless, and you cannot explain why. This is not just coincidence. This is the silent feeding that happens when an empath, someone whose heart is open and light is visible, steps too close to those who cannot create their own warmth. They see your glow, they sense your softness, and without you even knowing, they begin to drink from it. Carl Jung once warned that where there is light, there will always be shadows waiting. And if you are the light, you must understand that some are not here to love you, they are here to consume you. Most empaths believe their compassion is a gift, and it is. But it is also the very door through which others can quietly enter and take what was never theirs. Have you ever noticed that after being around certain people, you feel restless, anxious, or even guilty, while they seem lighter, calmer, even happier. That is not an accident. That is an exchange of energy where you gave, and they only received. Jung believed that the unconscious is always at work, pulling us toward what we do not see. And the truth is, many people are unconsciously drawn to empaths, not because they admire their kindness, but because they crave their light. You must hear this final warning. If you do not guard your energy, others will use you as their endless supply. Imagine walking into a room where the air feels heavy, where the moment you smile, someone else's eyes brighten, but yours start to dim. You do not say a word, yet you feel yourself giving away something unseen. You leave that place more tired, more restless, and you cannot explain why. This is not just coincidence. This is the silent feeding that happens when an empath, someone whose heart is open and light is visible, steps too close to those who cannot create their own warmth. They see your glow, they sense your softness, and without you even knowing, they begin to drink from it. Carl Jung once warned that where there is light, there will always be shadows waiting. And if you are the light, you must understand that some are not here to love you, they are here to consume you. Most empaths believe their compassion is a gift, and it is. But it is also the very door through which others can quietly enter and take what was never theirs. Have you ever noticed that after being around certain people, you feel restless, anxious, or even guilty, while they seem lighter, calmer, even happier? That is not an accident. That is an exchange of energy where you gave, and they only received. Jung believed that the unconscious is always at work, pulling us toward what we do not see. And the truth is, many people are unconsciously drawn to empaths, not because they admire their kindness, but because they crave their light. You must hear this final warning. If you do not guard your energy, others will use you as their endless supply. An empath walks through life like a candle in a dark cave. The flame is not just seen, it is felt. The flame is not just warmth, it is life to those who live in coldness. But what happens when too many gather around the candle? The wax melts faster. The flame flickers weaker, and before the empath knows it, the light that once lit the whole cave has burned itself out. Jung said that nothing affects us more deeply than what we do not acknowledge in ourselves. And for empaths, the danger is not simply others feeding on their light. It is the silence in which they let it happen. Because empaths often believe it is their role to give, they do not question when they feel drained. They mistake depletion for love. They confuse exhaustion with service. They carry burdens that were never meant for them. Think back to the people in your life who left you feeling smaller after every encounter. Maybe it was a friend who always came to you with their problems, but never asked about yours. Maybe it was a family member who only noticed you when they needed comfort. Maybe it was a partner who loved your kindness but did nothing to protect it. These are not just ordinary interactions. These are signs of a hidden exchange. Jung would say the shadow in them, the part they do not want to face, recognizes your light and clings to it. And while you believe you are helping, you may actually be feeding what is unhealed in them, while starving what is alive in you. The final warning is simple yet difficult. Your light is not infinite if you do not protect it. Many empaths walk through life without boundaries, thinking their love is enough to heal everyone. But Jung taught that wholeness is not about giving yourself away. It is about integrating what is within. That means learning to know your own shadow, to know where your kindness ends and where self-betrayal begins. Because every time you say yes when your heart says no, you hand over another piece of your energy. Every time you absorb someone else's pain without releasing it, you make yourself weaker. Every time you stay silent, when someone crosses your limits, you allow them to feed on your spirit. Picture a woman who gives endlessly to her partner. She listens to his struggles, comforts his fears, heals his anger. But when she is in pain, he cannot sit in silence with her. She excuses it, telling herself that he is not as sensitive, that she is stronger. But over months and years, she begins to feel smaller, less alive, less connected to herself. He feels better around her, but she feels worse. This is the unseen exchange. Or imagine a man who is always the friend everyone calls at midnight. He listens, he rescues, he fixes. But when he needs someone, the phone is quiet. He tells himself he doesn't need anyone. Yet deep down, he knows he is emptying himself for people who will never refill him. This is the warning for empaths. Not everyone who takes from you is a friend. Not everyone who smiles at you cares for you. Not everyone who reaches for you is reaching in love. Carl Jung spoke often about individuation, the process of becoming whole, of uniting the conscious and unconscious, of standing firmly in one's own truth. For the empath, individuation is not just about being kind. It is about learning to carry kindness with strength. Because without strength, kindness is only weakness dressed in soft clothes. The final warning is this: if you do not learn to protect your light, you will not only burn out, you will become prey to those who survive by draining others. Some people do not want to heal. Some people do not want to grow. They want your light because it fills the hole they refuse to face in themselves. And as long as you let them, they will keep coming back, hungrier every time. The empath often carries an old wound that makes them believe love is proven by sacrifice. Maybe as a child, you had to be the one who held peace in the family. Maybe you learned early that your value came from soothing others. Maybe you felt unseen unless you were useful. And now, as an adult, you attract those who mirror that same pattern. Jung would call this the repetition of archetypes. The inner script playing itself out again and again until it is made conscious. You think you are simply being good, but what you are really doing is repeating an old story. And the longer you repeat it, the more drained you become. But here is the truth. Your light was never meant to be consumed. Your light was meant to guide. There is a difference. A candle can light another candle without losing itself. But if it lets the wind of others consume it, it dies. As an empath, your role is not to carry everyone. Your role is to shine so clearly that those who are ready to awaken can see their own path. The ones who only want to feed will either fall away or be forced to face their own darkness when you stop giving them your flame. This is why boundaries are sacred. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They allow love in, but they keep harm out. They protect your gift so it can keep burning. So what does this mean in practice? It means noticing the signs. When you leave a conversation feeling heavy instead of light, pay attention. When you find yourself always giving, always listening, always carrying, but rarely receiving, that is not balance. That is feeding. When you realize you are excusing bad behavior because you feel guilty saying no, you are giving your power away. The final warning to empaths is not just about protecting yourself from others. It is about protecting yourself from the part of you that does not believe you deserve protection. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For the empath, this means until you see the pattern of giving away your light, you will keep repeating it. You will keep attracting those who feed, because your unconscious has not yet learned that love does not mean depletion. True love, true connection, does not drain, it expands. The people who truly value you will not take until you are empty. They will meet you with their own light. Think of the times you felt alive, when you were around people who made you brighter instead of smaller. That is the difference. Those moments are proof that your light was meant to be shared, not stolen. Those are the relationships you must seek, the spaces you must protect, the truth you must hold. Your empathy is not your weakness. It is your strength. But strength must be guarded. The world will always have shadows. Jung knew that light attracts both beauty and darkness. If you are an empath, you cannot avoid this truth, but you can choose to guard your flame so that it burns for years instead of being snuffed out too soon. And so I say again, this is your final warning. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. Not everyone who cries to you deserves your comfort. Not everyone who reaches for your hand deserves your soul. Protect your light. Protect it not by closing your heart, but by learning to say no. Protect it not by running from the world, but by learning to see who comes to take and who comes to give. Protect it not by dimming yourself, but by standing so fully in your truth that only those who carry their own light can walk beside you. Because in the end, the world does not need empaths who are exhausted, broken, and drained. The world needs empaths who are alive, awake, and whole. And the only way to stay whole is to remember, your light is sacred, and it was never meant to be food for those who refuse to create their own. This is the warning Jung would whisper to you now. Guard your light, because if you lose it, you lose yourself. And you were never here to disappear. You were here to shine. You see, the danger for empaths is not simply in feeling too much. The real danger is in not realizing that the world is full of people who do not come to give, but to take. And because your heart is open, because your presence is warm, because your light is visible, you believe the best in them. You do not ask if their intentions are pure. You do not question if their soul is ready. You simply open the door. And in that moment, you begin to hand over something far more valuable than time or attention. You hand over your energy, your spirit, the very force that makes you who you are. Carl Jung would remind us that every light casts a shadow. This means that the brighter your light, the more shadows it attracts. And yet, the empath rarely thinks of themselves as a target. They see themselves as helpers, healers, safe spaces for others. But let me ask you this. How many times have you walked away from a conversation feeling like you gave pieces of yourself away, while the other person left lighter, calmer, even smiling? How many times have you stayed awake at night, carrying the emotions that were not yours, replaying the pain of others as if it belonged to you? How many times have you been the one to rescue, to comfort, to forgive, while the other person never once asked how you were doing? This is not balance. This is not connection. This is feeding. Imagine a young empath, a child who notices when their parents are upset. Instead of playing freely, instead of resting in their own innocence, they try to make everyone around them feel better. They sense the tension in the air, and they carry it in their little body. They grow up learning that love means fixing, that safety means absorbing, that their value comes from softening the pain of others. And when they grow older, this pattern repeats. Friends come to them for advice. Partners come to them for comfort. Strangers pour out secrets to them within minutes of meeting. On the surface, it looks like a gift, and it is. But deep down, it is also a wound. Because that child never learned that their light is sacred, that their energy is theirs, that love does not mean depletion. Jung would call this a complex, an inner wound replaying itself in every relationship until it is seen and healed. This is why I call it a final warning, because without awareness, the empath will spend decades being consumed by others, thinking it is love, when it is actually self-erasure. They will spend their life carrying the shadows of others, while their own soul grows dimmer. And one day, they will wake up and realize they no longer know who they are without someone else's weight on their shoulders. They will mistake emptiness for normal. They will mistake silence for peace, when in truth, they have simply given all of themselves away. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who always listened. Her friends loved her because she was the strong one, the one who would never say no, the one who would hold their secrets like treasures. But at night, when she was alone, she felt restless. She felt invisible. No one called her just to ask how she was. No one noticed when she was hurting. And still, she told herself, "This is love. This is my role." Until one day, she realized she no longer felt alive. She was only existing through the emotions of others. That woman was an empath who never protected her light. And sadly, there are millions like her. Or think of the man who always rescued. His partner was unstable, often angry, often lost. But every time she fell apart, he was there to pick up the pieces. He believed it was his duty to heal her, to be her anchor. And so he gave and gave and gave until his own dreams began to fade. He no longer laughed the way he used to. He no longer felt the fire of his own soul. He lived only to keep her steady. And though she took his comfort, she never truly grew. She became dependent and he became empty. That man believed his love would save her. But in truth, it only destroyed him. This is what happens when an empath confuses sacrifice with connection. Carl Jung taught that to become whole, we must integrate both the light and the shadow. For the empath, this means learning that compassion without boundaries is not wholeness. It is self-betrayal. To give endlessly without protecting yourself is not divine love. It is a slow destruction. And yet, many empaths resist this truth because deep down, they fear that if they stop giving, no one will stay. They fear that their worth is only in what they provide. They fear being abandoned if they say no. But let me ask you, what kind of love is it if it requires you to disappear? What kind of friendship is it if it leaves you drained and unseen? What kind of connection is it if you are only valuable when you are bleeding for someone else? The final warning is this: your empathy will either become your strength or your weakness, depending on whether you learn to protect it. Think of your energy like a river. If you let everyone come with buckets, day after day, soon the river runs dry. But if you build boundaries, if you protect its flow, it can water gardens for years. Your kindness, your light, your spirit, it is meant to nourish, not to be stolen. It is meant to inspire, not to be consumed. And the only way to protect it is to realize that not everyone deserves it. This is where the hardest lesson comes. As an empath, you must learn to let some people go. You must learn that it is not cruel to step back from those who drain you. It is not selfish to say no. It is not unkind to protect yourself, because every time you allow yourself to be consumed, you rob the world of your true gift. A dimmed empath cannot heal anyone. A broken empath cannot inspire anyone. A silent empath cannot light the way for anyone. Jung said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. For empaths, this means accepting that your energy is not for everyone. It means facing the fear of rejection, the fear of being seen as cold, the fear of being misunderstood. Because only when you face those fears can you finally guard your light. So how do you know who is feeding on you? Watch how you feel after being with them. The body never lies. If you feel heavy, if you feel anxious, if you feel guilty for not giving enough, pay attention. That is not love, that is feeding. Watch the balance. Do they ask about you? Do they give as much as they take? Or are you always the one holding, always the one carrying, always the one listening? Watch their patterns. Do they grow with your presence, Or do they remain the same, always returning for more, never changing, never rising? These are the signs. And the empath who ignores them is the empath who will be drained until nothing remains. Jung also reminded us that the unconscious will continue to draw us toward lessons we refuse to learn. If you do not learn to protect your energy, life will keep sending you people who take it. If you do not learn to build boundaries, life will keep surrounding you with those who have none. If you do not learn to say no, you will spend your life saying yes to your own destruction. This is why awareness is everything. The moment you see the pattern, the moment you name it, the moment you choose differently, you begin to reclaim your power. So this is my plea to you: protect your light. Protect it with clarity. Protect it with courage. Protect it even when it feels uncomfortable. Protect it even when people call you selfish. Protect it because without it, you cannot live fully. Your empathy is not a curse. It is a sacred gift, but a gift without protection becomes a burden. And the world does not need more burdened souls. It needs souls who are alive, awake, and whole. And so, as Jung would say, the work begins within. Ask yourself, why do I keep giving when I am empty? Why do I believe love means sacrifice? Why do I fear saying no? Why do I allow others to feed on me when I know it leaves me drained? These questions are not easy. They may even hurt. But they are the doorway to freedom. Because once you know the answer, you will see that your light was never meant to be food. It was meant to be fire. And fire, when protected, does not just burn for a moment. It burns for a lifetime. This is your final warning, and also your greatest invitation. Protect your light, not by dimming it, but by honoring it. Protect it, not by closing your heart, but by opening your eyes. Protect it, not by hiding from the world, but by choosing carefully who you let close. Because once you do, you will realize something powerful. The right people do not drain your light. They reflect it. They add to it. They walk beside you carrying their own flame. And together, you shine brighter than you ever could alone. So to every empath listening, I leave you with this: your light is sacred. Do not waste it on those who feed but never give. Do not hand it to those who confuse love with taking. Do not let it be consumed by shadows that refuse to face themselves. Stand tall in your truth. Guard your energy with love. And let your flame burn for those who are ready to walk in the light with you, not feed on it in the dark. This is your final warning. And if you truly hear it, it will also be your beginning.